What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast interview, the #1 podcast in the industry for real estate agents to learn how to get shit done. Make sure to check us out at www.gsdmode.com to check out other GSD Mode podcast interviews and other additional free content, free webinar trainings, and more epic content that I'm always putting out there to help real estate agents like you crush your real estate goals. Just a few quick plugs before we begin. If you are a driven real estate agent that has big goals, big dreams, and want to create greatness, then check out my personal mentorship coaching program at www.90daymastery.com, where you can see how it works, what you can expect, see a ton of testimonials about the massive success other realtors just like yourself have experienced with the program, and learn why thousands and thousands of real estate agents have decided to join my personal coaching program to help them change their business and life forever. All right, so as real estate agents, hands down, by far, the #1 most important tool in our real estate business is our CRM. If you want to use the exact same website and CRM I use that provides you with all my personal follow-up drips that allows my team to generate thousands of leads each and every month and close 2+ homes every single day, check us out at www.perfectstormnow.com to see the best, most effective, and affordable website CRM system on the planet. If you are going to sign up, make sure to go to perfectstormgsd.com. You want to make sure that you go there to register, perfectstormgsd.com, where you can get the registration fee waived and only pay $199 a month. One last quick thing. Your support truly means a lot. If you find these interviews and any other GSD Mode content powerful, please make sure to share it with anyone that you feel can benefit from this content. All right, it is time to jump on into today's GSD Mode podcast interview. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode interview, where every single week we interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and straight up top badasses out there dominating their space. These are guests and people that choose to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, for their families, as well as to have a big impact on others. And that's why they agree to take time out of their busy lives and busy days to come here and share all their amazing knowledge with us. So today, guys, we got a special guest on the show, a dude that I'm really excited to have on the show. Been anticipating this for about a month now to get him on, and I'm really excited to just share his wealth of knowledge with you guys. This is somebody that I look up to as a mentor and go to for guidance, and is actually, as of just recently, my personal coach and mentor right now to help me grow and expand my real estate business as well. So our guest, you guys, is I actually don't know if today is an active real estate agent still. Maybe you may not. What's that?
I am.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So a real estate, just like so many of us that enter the space, you jump in as a real estate agent. The next thing you know, you're growing and develop a team, and it just keeps expanding from there. So this is a dude that's really done it all. From a agent standpoint, team, brokerage standpoint, to running some of being with and running some of the biggest operations on the planet inside real estate. And then now today, coaches and mentors, a lot of the top, or I should say a lot of the top brokerage owners all over the planet, is the senior vice president of T360, as well as the president of the brokerage consulting division. So really stoked and honored to have my friend Dean Cottrill on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Joshua, thank you very much. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. So, I want to jump on it because, man, you got so much good intel. And we were just talking before we hit the record button of this trends report that your company just released. And it's probably I shouldn't say probably, hands down the best material I've ever read in real estate from, so much what we read on is about lead gen and all this stuff from how do we position ourselves as real estate business owners, based on, the changes that have happened based on historic trends, as well as like what things are happening in future predictions. I've yet to read anything that even comes close to being such great content, to the point where I would just order a second one and ship it to my business partner, my software company. Now he's not in real estate, but we own a software company together for real estate. And so I'm like, dude, you got to read this, bro. Like, this is I don't care if you're a realtor or not. If you have anything tied to the real estate business, like this is a must read. Because man, there's a lot of changes that are taking place, right? So, but before we get into all of that, as you guys can tell, I'm pretty excited. Before we get into all of that, though, man, I'm always intrigued in our guest journeys that led them here in the first place. And I know I've heard some of your journey, but a lot of this I haven't even really heard your full journey. So if we rewind the clocks, dude, like day one getting into real estate, like what led you to that day? And then let's kind of just walk through your career evolution that's led you to where you are now.
Sure. I'll actually I'll go back a little further because I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Went to school right outside of Pittsburgh at a school called Indiana University of Pennsylvania for college. Was an accounting major. I have graduated accounting and got into the accounting field for a very short time and could not stand it. I was bored out of my mind. Numbers come easy to me, but I really want to do something and make a bigger impact. So I got a real estate license. This was back in 1990. So it was a long time ago. And back then the internet wasn't around. So I was out looking at investment, buying things at the courthouse steps in Montgomery County, right outside of Washington, D.C. I'd moved down there after college. And I was down there with my identical twin brother, Darren. Him and I are both in real estate. My dad was a partner in an accounting firm. My older brother, Scott's a CFO. He was an accounting guy for Price Waterhouse at the time. My little brother, he's an internal auditor. So we're all bean counters. And my brother and I, twin brother and I left, went into real estate, went into sales. And I loved it because what I found started through the investment side, but then I found that I really loved helping people. And it started out helping people buy and sell houses. I loved that energy. I was 22, 23 years old at the time. I was really young. So I felt I needed to have designations behind my name to make me feel more confident. That was an insecurity I had. So I went and got the GRI designation. I went and got CRS. I remember sitting in a CRS course in Rockville, Maryland back in early 1990s, and the instructor asking the question to me in front of a room full of people, why do you do this? And I passionately say, because I love helping people. I love that feeling of those keys going across the table, from that seller to that buyer and being a part of that family's journey. And he looks at me and says, no, you don't. You don't do it for that reason. You do it because you get paid, because there's a financial benefit there. The other part of that is that you have the benefit of helping people in this process of making a living for yourself. But if you weren't able to, unless you're independently wealthy, you're doing it for the money piece. And then the other benefits from that come, the downline of that is that you get to benefit and help others. And as you and I know, if we focus on the things that that are rewarding to us and helping people, money comes. And so we can get into a long discussion about that, but I won't. So the idea of real estate, I sold for 8 years. I grew my business. I didn't know the market. I didn't know the people. I'd moved from Pittsburgh. So I really start with, everyone was a stranger to me. So I went into primary markets. That was something I learned through how to evaluate marketplaces, turnover rates, average sales prices, what my return on my investment is going to be. I ranked 43 different subdivisions around Washington, D.C. I picked the one that had the highest turnover rate, that was going to make me the most money. I started marketing. I bought the first listing I ever listed in and moved into that property. End up getting married there. My daughter was born right down the street at Holy Cross Hospital. So it was an interesting journey. That was, and I was to the point I was marketing 5,000 homes on a monthly basis. I was doing 6 open houses a month. So I've been there. That's my point, I guess, in sharing all this. I was in that sales associate's shoes. I was running hard, putting deals together. When my daughter was born, I decided I wanted to have a little more. I didn't want to do 6 open houses a month anymore. I wanted to have a little more time to spend with her. I moved into leadership. I ran an office for Weichert Realtors, one of the largest companies in the country at the time, still is. I was there for a couple years, learned a lot through that process. I moved to a company called Long & Foster, which was recently acquired by Berkshire Hathaway. It was one of the largest independents in the country at the time. I was there for 8 years, ran an office, took it from a loss of a couple $100,000 to over $1 million a year profit, recruited many sales professionals in the course of that process. on a yearly basis as I was there for those 8 years. And then I moved to NRT under the Coldwell Banker residential brokerage brand. I ran a region in right around Baltimore. I then ran the company. The Baltimore company is over 30 offices. I then took over Mid-Atlantic, the DC market, Northern Virginia. And then I also became, in my last position with them in over 10 years, I was what's called a group president. So I oversaw not only the Mid-Atlantic, but then I supported the Carolinas, and I supported the Atlanta company, Atlanta, Georgia company. So in that company, actually in the Mid-Atlantic and those other operations, we had a commercial company. We had residential, of course. Residential was about 95% of all the business. And then we also had a resort rental division at the coast, close to 3,000 properties I supported, and a property management company, close to 800 properties in property management around the Mid-Atlantic marketplace. So we also had ancillary services, mortgage, title, warranty, insurance, you name it. Our hands were in a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts, and just loved everything about it, helping people. So going from an agent's level where I was helping buyers and sellers, I then became a manager. I helped agents run better and more profitable businesses. Then as a regional, I helped managers and the agents run better and profitable businesses, and it just kept going. So that's my little synopsis of my journey there.
Yeah, so love it, man. So as you were expanding through each of those roles, from, agent running your own business, let's just say to leadership, and as you took on each role, like what were some of the key things, that you learned from each role? Of, it comes down to the Jim Rohn quote of, success isn't doing process, it's a becoming process. And at each level, as you expand, you really got to become somebody different and become more. And it's like, my ability of being a good team leader really has nothing to do with my ability of being a great real estate agent. That was a very difficult lesson for me to learn. Yeah. Right. So what were some of those key lessons for those people that are, wanting to get into leadership and expand and grow, the lessons that you learned so, they might be able to start preparing themselves to become that person before they even step into that role and be that much more prepared?
I tell you, to be really honest, and frank with everybody, and you said this, it's really your personal growth that really, I think, looking back on my career, that's helped me as I've gone from different stages. The personal growth of, there are a lot of wonderful things that happen in life, and there's a lot of challenging things. And frankly, in those challenging times, you learn a lot about yourself. And you push yourself to be, in the old saying, that doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. It's very true. So the idea of having a positive attitude, every day getting up in the morning with the idea you're going to make a difference, whether it's a morning routine. You've heard about this. I'm big into meditation, affirmations, all that. And it's funny because years ago, I never put that label on it, being affirmations, meditation. I'd get up, go to the gym. I had my routine. I had my focus. It got my energy going, and it took me into the day in a positive mindset. And I didn't really think through logistically, this is what I was doing. I was putting myself in the right frame of mind to go out and make a difference that day. And then as you tweak it and as you go through it and you take a step back a little bit from your life and you look back on it and say, what are some things so I can replicate it? I can continue this momentum and increase the momentum. You look then to perfect it and streamline some of those things. So I would say it's the personal growth that I've personally gone through and pushing myself to be the best I can be. And in that process, I think what happens, and we're all magnets, as I like to say, in that we attract things to us. We also repel things. And so in that process of attracting, you want to attract good things to you. So part of that is being a positive person, going about making positive and changes in your life and in other lives is the goal. And people sense that, can get a feeling of that. Also through that, Joshua, is your wall, your personal self-confidence increases. And in that, your wall comes down, in that you're very open to having conversations with people, and everyone can sense, if you're insecure, you come across, people can sense that you have a wall up, you're insecure, and they're very less apt to be open with you. And so it's hard to have a connection with somebody, another human being. And as you become more confident about your abilities and who you are as a person, you lower that bar where you're more open to, you're more vulnerable, I guess is the word to use. And in that vulnerability comes a real honest feeling from others that, they can be open with you because you're not looking to hurt them, to make yourself feel better about yourself. You're really there just to help support them and help them no matter what their goals are and whatever their dreams are. And you're trying to ascertain that and support that. And that's kind of like the psychological background, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, is what's been helpful to that is just realizing who you are, push yourself to be the best you are, and then support others around you. And then think about how do you streamline it, how do you systemize it? Just like you systemize a business, you systemize things that you do in your life that help provide those efficiencies in your own person, as a person, whether it's for family or whether it's business.
No, I love it. And I couldn't agree more. And when people hear that, right, somebody's like, well, what was the secret to your success? Oh, well, self-development, personal growth. And people kind of dismiss it. Well, yeah, I've been reading books too. Like I get that, like, they keep digging deeper, but I don't think a lot of people understand, because there's a difference between what most people do for self-development and actually effective self-development, right? Like we're bringing in somebody in a couple of weeks to my team, which sounds kind of like a silly, course that to others, but it's actually just a specialist on how to read a book, like how to actually read. Most people, don't ever get beyond a fifth grade reading level. They don't really know how to comprehend it and really learn from that. And, so where I want to go with this is, there's so much information out there, and you got to learn what to say yes to, what to say no to, the right people to learn from. We can't read all the books. We can't hire all the coaches. Right. And if you're not careful, right, you can get yourself in trouble with that and waste a lot of time and money. And like you go to Barnes & Noble, 95% of the business books on there on the shelves were never written by a business owner. They're written by somebody that just went and studied the business owners, and you get just maybe 20% of the story. You don't get the full story. And it becomes difficult of who to listen to, what to listen to identify those. And like you said with self-development, it's like our ability to create success is in our own ability to solve our own problems. Yeah, right? Then you have another problem. You got to learn how to identify it, solve it, and you just keep climbing up those ranks, right? But you got to be able to do that effectively. And
that's effective, but it's a system. You systematically figure out, whether it's your personal life, business life, how to resolve issues. How do you deal with them? And sometimes you just have to decide to have a stop doing list. Sometimes you just have to stop doing certain things and say, I did that for so long, but you have to reflect on it and say, that's not helping me get to my ultimate goal, whether it's personal or business. I need to stop doing that. And you just have to be real with yourself. And sometimes it frankly takes you longer to be real with yourself than others, because sometimes it pulls on your heartstrings. You don't want to stop this. You kind of like doing these things, but it's not for the better interest of whatever the goal is.
So in the busy world that we're in, though, because everybody's a YouTube sensation star, and man, especially in real estate, man, you got so much smoke and mirrors, so many, everybody, I used to look at these speakers on stages and think, oh my God, that person's amazing. They made this at GCI, and then you get to know them and you realize they got a $200,000 tax bill and they're broke as shit. And we're like, how do you sort through that? So if you have a challenge right now in your life, at the level that you are at, or anything in the past, how do you find the right information or the right people to go through to make sure you're getting the right information from the right people?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the things that many of you have heard is success leaves clues. And so one of the things I'd encourage is, like what you're doing here, is listening to your podcast and listen to successful people. When I was a sales professional, I would look at successful sales agents and what were they doing to be successful. I would then look at the business, found out listings, the name of the game. So I want to become a listing agent. So I focused on marketing areas. I find out turnover rates. So that's how I started making more money. I created more efficiency. I can't add more time to my day. So I wanted to get more done in the time that I had. And that the best way for me to do that was to focus on listings. And I did that. So then when I moved into management, I went out and visited and sat with and took the breakfast, lunch, you name it, every top manager within Weiker's organization that would meet with me, because I wanted to learn from them. What are you doing to be successful? How did you recruit 60 people to your office last year? Give me some insight. into those strategies, ideas. Who knows what it was, whatever it was. But I wanted to learn from everybody. So you're a sponge, I guess would be my answer. When I went to Long and Foster, I did the same thing. I went and visited the top 5 profit offices. I wanted to find out. When I was a group president, I wanted to find out. We do a metric, and we track our first 2 quartiles. If you take your agents, your sales professionals, whether you're a team or whether you're a broker, and you look at all your roster of licenses, and you then rank them from the top most productive to the least productive, and you then quartile them, top 25, next 25, so on and so forth. Your top 2 quartile typically in a brokerage run about 91 to 92% of all the revenue that comes to a brokerage comes out of those first 2 quartiles. And so then you track retention. What am I retaining of those top 2? And you want to retain over 90%. You don't want a churn rate or a loss rate to be higher than that. And so within NRT, I found out the top 5 companies in of NRT were running at 99, 99, 98, 98, 98%. They were killing it. And so I reached out to them. I said, what are your strategies? What are your ideas? So it's constantly looking to improve what are the metrics that you're measuring yourself on, and then trying to improve in those areas and find people who are already doing it. So listening to the podcast here, constantly reading, growing, it's all part of a multi-layered strategy of trying to raise your awareness of who you are, what you provide, feeling, frankly, going back and how confident. I tell you, from the new agents, all the agents I've worked with, the most successful are the ones that are confident in their own abilities. And sometimes they're overconfident and their abilities, frankly, weren't that high, but their confidence overcame that because they were just so overly confident about who they were and what they could do. And when you match confidence with talent, look out. And with knowledge, look out. I mean, that is an incredible combination, 1, 2, 3 punch there of that. But confidence is that one piece that because people can read books, they can go to seminars, they can do all they want. Their knowledge can go very high, but if they're not confident in who they are and their abilities, unfortunately, they're not going to succeed.
Yeah. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but just from what your response there was, because I just think that this is really important for our listener base to hear this is, it sounds to me when you were looking for, okay, who were the top agents and who were the top leaders and who were, to go out there and learn from, you were making sure though to vet them, making sure that the production matched. It wasn't just somebody you heard or, said like you went out there and did your research to make sure they were a true doer, that were getting the results that you wanted. You found those people and then you seek to them for advice. Yeah. Right. Would you say that's accurate?
Yep. That's exactly right. And that's so whatever world I was in, whether I was a sales professional, whether I was a manager, whether I was a regional, a president, a group president, I was looking in that arena, in that area. I was looking at certain metrics that were all, like profitability. Everybody in our business, profitability in your own as an individual sales agent, sales professional, as a team leader, as a brokerage, what's your profitability? What are components that drive profitability? One of the things that we talk about in our consulting group and work with our brokers and large teams, we talk about 5 different key areas, a number of units, how many units, what's the average sales price, what's the commission being charged, what are you retaining of that total commission, what are your expenses, taking a dive in those key areas, what are the strategies and ideas of trying to improve in those individual areas to increase your bottom line. So there's certain metrics in wherever you are that you want to look at, and then look at who's doing a great job at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then many of them, like yourself, who go do this podcast, Joshua, is that you're open and sharing. And as we know, you share an open book. I'm an open book. Someone reached out to me and I'm an open book. Here's my path. Here's what helped me be successful. And a lot of people are exactly like that. Unfortunately, very few people seek that knowledge out.
Yeah, it is sad. And I don't know if you experienced this, but when I first got in the business in 2005, it seemed like the industry was had much more of a scarcity mindset, wasn't near as open. Yeah, right. Where it's transition, and maybe that was just due to me being newer and I was more scarce, so it just appeared that way. But man, I've never had a top producer I've reached out to that wasn't willing to share everything. I had to reach out to them, but I think as you create success, you realize, man, that it's all world of abundance. There is no scarcity, and there's there's so very few committed people that there's enough to go around for the committed and I'll crush it.
Yeah. Agreed. And that's sometimes you get you might get pushback, like when you're running a company, for example, and you share thoughts and ideas, and people are like hesitant because other fearful that someone's going to take those ideas and run with them. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't run with them. You can share great ideas and thoughts, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't implement them because the bottom line, some of them it takes work.
Yeah.
You know, and that work, so you have to have that work ethic. You have to have the ability, you know, getting up early or whatever your schedule is. You know, for me, I got up early. I still get up early. You get up and go. Yeah, you know, you can get yourself moving in the right direction. You highlight what are your to-dos for the day. You prioritize them. You make sure you knock out. You eat your frogs in the morning if that's your thing. I mean, whatever it is that you need to do for yourself, because you know yourself, you know what your hangups are, your challenges are. And so then you create strategies within your own world, within your own mind, and you strategize against yourself to improve yourself, to get over those, to overcome them. And that's that hard work ethic that you push and you keep doing and you keep improving. And again, it goes back to the magnetism piece, because if you keep doing these things over and over, you'll then make it a habit. It becomes habitual, that you're habitually taking on challenges and beating them and winning. Not everyone. I mean, every once in a while we get knocked down. And frankly, that's where you grow, is when you get that friction, that change, and you get like, oh, what went wrong there? Let me kind of look around and figure this out. And then you keep heading, pin the ears back and keep moving.
Yeah. So before I go into, because I had a lot of questions for you, I mean, we have a lot of top agents that come on the show, and but we haven't had anybody with your experience and expertise, you know, from the business side of things. And I've got a lot of questions there as far as positioning and, you know, for our broker owners, team leaders to really grow their businesses. But before I get into that, man, I'm curious of, you know, because you had all of this success going through the ranks and with NRT and you know, and those of probably have a lot of listeners, you know, as an agent, you don't really hear about Rheology or NRT. I mean, they're kind of behind the scenes, but essentially they own all of real estate, right? So, you know, I mean, you had a great position there. You could have just kept going there and had a great career for the rest of your life and been, you know, very successful with that. But at some point, you know, you decided to transition into this coaching space. Like, what brought that about and made that decision to go join T360?
Well, you know, in the consulting world, what I found, again, going back to just really enjoy helping. And when you look back in the management space, I was an agent for 8 years, roughly. I was in managing sales offices for about the same time, a little over 2 years with Weichert, 8 years with Long and Foster. So there's another 10 years. And then I went into another 10 years with NRT, and I was like the 10-year itch, I guess, ready for that next challenge, that next change. And hearing about Stefan Swanpool, who's our chairman and founder of T360, an incredible man with an incredible history. He actually ran the whole international ERA for Rheology back in the 90s. So he's got that, and he ran large real estate companies in California, was also from South Africa originally, and was in real estate there as well. I've got Jack Miller, who's our Chief Technology Officer, won the Inman Innovation Award, has operations experience, things like that. It's a great dynamic group, expanding and growing. We're at 6 different divisions. We're the largest. We're only focused on residential real estate. So we're not a consulting company that's in all the different areas of business, and then real estate's just one of them. That's all we do, is residential real estate in North America. And so in partnering with these guys and working with this organization, going out and supporting broker owners and large teams has been phenomenal. It's been fantastic, because what I was doing when I was helping everyone within the NRT operation as that group president on the East Coast of the United States, you know, I've taken now and I'm helping broker owners and large teams across the country and in Canada. And it's just been a multiplier of being able to help people and help them see whether it's, you know, analyzing their financials and giving them a better sense of how to see trends and how they can stay in front of the wave instead of behind it, and how they can make sure they catch it. And they can see issues coming before they become a major problem or challenge to their company. All these different things is something that's I really enjoy, and now I can do it with multiple people, multiple operations, And also part of it I mentioned to you earlier, and we talked about, is learning. This is a great opportunity because I'm learning myself as you always learn every day new things. And so love our industry for that reason too. That's one of the reasons I kind of moved out of accounting. So I was, it was, it's like doing the same thing over and over. It's like, oh my gosh. But this has changed. So when I'm looking at all these different models, all these different entrepreneurs who have all different levels of confidence and knowledge and how to support and help them, it just becomes a jigsaw puzzle of how to put it together and help support that company, that operation to move to a higher level. So it's very exciting. And that's so that was the next journey. Now I'm coming up on my 1 year now anniversary with T360, and it's February 20th, and it's been awesome. So we're excited about the future.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you made the transition and shift. Until I met you, I had swore that I would never hire another coach inside real estate, because it gets to a point where, man, it's so difficult to get that right information or what you need. And I got to a point where I felt like I had to go outside of real estate to really dial down systems, processes, and, treat this as a business, not just as an agent. It becomes very challenging to get the right information in this space, right? Then when I met you guys, I'm like, boom, like I knew right away that was as a team leader, it was, where I needed to be, right, with the right people to go out there and expand. So I'm definitely glad you guys did, man. I'm excited for this next year journey that we're taking together. So with that, let's jump into that, man, because you can't, I mean, with so many broker owners that, I started Brokerage just because seems like at least most that I know that I'm friends with that started the Brokerage. It's like, look, their teams got so big, let's just say, where, didn't make sense. They break off really just to save that brokerage fee, the E&O. Yep. Right. But that creates new struggles. They don't have, it seems like most of them are never able to really get above 50 agents or it seems like so many get stuck at that point. And we start diving it down, they don't know their numbers inside and out. They're not treating it as a business. They're not looking at the other revenue centers, the ancillaries, right. That, like, I came from the health club space. Yeah. And say it was like, okay, hey, the memberships that were coming in, that was the break even. That's just so you didn't have to start at zero every month, right? And then where the money was made was all the ancillaries, locker rentals, juice bar, retail, personal training. Yeah. And if you were very intentional, methodical about stacking those right and having the right packages to offer, and that the demand was there and delivering value, you could crush it. It would make the difference of a break even to, $200,000 a month net for one facility. Yeah. Right. It took me about 13 years to connect the dots between that space to real estate. Yeah. I eventually, started to connect them. And so earlier you talked about 5 revenue streams. Can you kind of start expanding into, that of from the brokerage space or team leader space?
Sure. Well, one of the things that you said is very interesting. When I was up at the Inman conference in New York here, and they had the Independent Brokerage Day on Monday, they talked about, they had everyone raise their hand. How many were you large teams that now have moved into your own brokerage? And almost over half the hands in the room were exactly what you just said. Large team leaders who said, you know what, I'm moving out. I'm going to create my own brokerage because I'm already getting my own systems, my own technology. I'm doing everything even outside the brokerage. And so why do I need the brokerage? And they've transitioned and they do their own thing. Is what was told to me by several of the participants, part of the people that were there. And the challenge they have is they were incredible team leaders or teams, and now they're running a company. Now they're running a brokerage. And there's a lot of other moving pieces, and the distraction pieces, they're distracted. So part of it in being helpful to them is looking at, taking what they're excellent real estate sales professionals. Now you're running a business, not that you weren't running a business before. Even large teams are running companies within companies. But you have to look at a complete overview of where you are and where you want to go. And so one of the things, I guess, the answer to the question is helping somebody in that position. How do we help them grow? How do we help them see that next chapter, that next level, if we will, of growth and success, whether it's going from, over 50 agents to 100 agents, whether it's expanding into new marketplaces, whether it's whatever, if it's something you own a price point, but you want to move into another price point, another area, another market, upper price point area, things like that. So it really depends on that individual owner where they want to go. So we work on what's called strategic. It's actually a Harvard Business Review, great article about strategic intent. It's not strategic goal planning, it's strategic intent, meaning what is the intent of why you're doing this? So when you move out into your own brokerage, all the reasons we stated, most brokers just move out because they're already taking their own technologies, they're already spending their own money, and they're like, why am I paying this brokerage for this? So they go out. But what is the ultimate intent down the road is to take a look and say 10, 15, 20 years from now, is it financial? Do I want to sell my company? Would I like to be at a place where I can actually sell it to somebody with a multiple of 4, currently around 4? What would that equate to? And is that something? So where do I need to grow the profits to be able to sell it? And then what's the timeline? And then we create milestones to help them achieve that. So the whole idea is creating some clarity to and helping broker owners and large team leaders take a step back from the day-to-day, hand-to-hand, I always say the hand-to-hand combat of doing the day-to-day brokerage business, and taking a step back and looking at more of the field and say, okay, how best can I position myself to reach the goals? Well, first off, let's decide what our goals are. What are the long-term goals? And then break those back into milestones and timeline those and help them. And there's a whole process of going through that to help large team leaders and brokerages create that clarity. And it's something too, you had mentioned this earlier, Joshua, it's something also, it doesn't happen in a week and it doesn't happen in a day. There's sometimes we flip switches in our minds like that, and we can make decisions quickly and change our direction. But some of these things, when you're running a brokerage, and that's what I found out when I went from a sales agent and I wanted to increase my income, I increased my activities. So when I increased my activities, whether it was phone calls, expired for sale by owners, whatever it was, if I wanted to start marketing more to the primary markets, I did more activities, I generated more business came to me into more commission checks within a 60 to 90 day window. I can make an impact by increasing my activities in a focused way. In a brokerage, it takes longer than that. You can impact, you can start recruiting, focusing, but it's something that takes longer, 3 to 6 months sometimes to systemize things, to put things in place, to get those things moving, get that momentum going. And then you reap the benefits in that 6, 9 months, 12 months and on down the road. And frankly, sometimes many of us in our industry have this ADD mentality. If we're not getting that instant response, that instant gratification, then we're not going to proceed down that path. So our goal in working with broker owners and large teams is to all right, let's look at your organization. We start with a discovery process. We dive deep into them. Discovery meaning financials, staff, your org chart, everything you're using technology-wise. What is any future changes and thoughts you have? Any challenges you're having with technology? What are you doing on the marketing front? Are you generating company-generated business? What's your model? How do you set up? And then we talk about best practices. We talk about benchmarking being how are you ranking compared to, we do a Mega 1000 report. And so we rank the top 1,000 brokerages across the country. So we basically benchmark organizations to those top organizations in key business areas of how they're doing. Are they doing really well? Great. If they're not doing so well, here are strategies and ideas how to improve in those key areas. And I mentioned 5 key areas before, and we dive into a lot more key areas on a financial, for example, financial analysis of their operation. We move into a competitive analysis. Let's look at the landscape. Every market's unique and a little different. As you go across North America, there are similarities and there are some differences as well. So what is your current landscape? What is that competitive analysis assessment going on? Then we move into strategic intent. As I mentioned earlier, what is your long-term plan? We create the milestones. We help create clarity on that front. And realize this, a lot of these things are living documents, like your strategic intent. That's a living document. It's something because the intent is I want to get there. Sometimes within a year, 2 years, something could be reinvented. There could be a new technology that comes your way that will help you get there faster, more efficiently, less costly, less pain associated with it, whatever it might be. So the strategic intent mindset is my ultimate goal is to get here. If I end up having something come my way, that I'm open to new ideas and thoughts to get there faster and more efficiently. So I'm not fixated so much on a goal where I lose sight of potential things that can help me get there faster.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it, man. I mean, and God, just the application, that process that I went through to get accepted in your program, I mean, that was like a 2-hour process. Like when you say you guys collect this data, that was like just for me to be able, like, hey, take my money and coach me. That's before this other stuff that you even talked about, where it is so in depth. And it'd be, I don't know if you guys know this, it'd be interesting to see like how many clients that you start working with that are broker owners or team leaders that actually have that data, know that data that you asked for up front. You know, I mean, all that stuff I'm looking at, like, I've never done a competitive analysis. I mean, I have a rough idea, but you know, in other industries that I'm involved in, like, we are very clear on that. Like, to the point, like, we're even clients of our competitors' stuff, so we break it down. Real estate business, I've never done that, you know, right?
You know, the one thing too, is I shared with everybody, is what I just went through: the discovery, the competitive assessment, the strategic intent. All that's 3 months. That takes 3 months just to get through that process. Each month, we do a month for each of them, because it is such a deep dive into areas. And as you said, many of the brokers that we're working with have never done this. They haven't gone down this path. And it's not like you guys aren't busy. You're not busy right now, right? You've already got a lot of things going on. So part of this too, we talked about strategies and ideas of how to create more efficiency, so you have more time available to you to work on your business.
Yeah. So, you know, I look at, I find that a lot of my growth, or that I experienced more so today than I did in the past, I didn't do a good enough job in the past at this, is looking at outside industries, you know, right? And you look at like a Jimmy John's, for example. Jimmy John's went from being a 9-figure company to skyrocketed to a 10+ figure company by looking at, they're like, okay, we can't just be the franchise, or sell the franchise. They're like, hey, look, we've got to, because they can only sell so many sandwiches, you know, right? So they're like, hey, instead of paying Heinz for our bread and our mayonnaise, whatever, like, we've got to produce it ourselves, right? Sell it to our franchise owners at a better rate than they could get it from Heinz. Like, we all win. It becomes a profit center, and it skyrocketed them, you know, right? I've got a guy that I met that is one of the top franchise attorneys on the planet. He just started his own franchise that's like these trampoline kids facilities. Yeah. And he's like, where do you think I make my money? You know, he's like, or make most of my money. I'm like, I don't know. He's like, dude, it's the socks. You know, right? Kids bouncing in, the parents go buy the socks. Like, I get them for, 50 cents from, wherever in China, some to the franchise owner for $2.50. They sell them for $6. We all win. But he's like, look, you never start a franchise or really any business, if you think about it, unless you have, other revenue services that are coming in. So when it comes to a broker owner, because, man, you got, you got title opportunities, you've got, and so many different options. Like, right now, I'm trying to create a concierge service where it's like, for our clients, between buying this house and selling it, man, they need landscapers, house cleaners, just creating a full concierge where we have everything, and trying to create revenue and make our lives better, our clients' lives better through the experience of this. And can you kind of talk about that, because the margin is so thin, or most brokers probably just lose money on the company dollar coming in from the commissions from the agents, right? So you kind of expand on that.
They actually, it's typically, and we benchmark this as well, the brokers that are out there, they'll typically get a return on revenue over 8% if they're doing well. 4 to 8, okay, under 4, you're not doing great. And that's really thin. And they're different models. Some models, actually, the team model, where there's a lot of lead generation happening from the team leader, and that brokerage is run such like that. And then this commissions are negotiated at a much higher to the company and that creates a much higher return. So, but and there's components of that. Some of the large brokerages have multiple streams within the residential sales. So they have sales, independent contractors out selling houses, the value propositions, why they're working together. They decide also they're generating leads from online business. They have relocation business. They also generate business from. That's what we did at NRT. We had a sister company called Artis, the largest relocation company in the world. Over 50% of all relocations went through that business, that company. It was disseminated to brokers around. We took some of that. We had to pay out referral fees, things like that. But at the end of the day, we did over almost $2 billion of sales through that operation. So it generates signs, it generates revenue. Not a highest percent that you'd want, but that's part of it. It's part of the equation, to your point. It's part of like the socks. It's bringing additional revenue sources in. Property management is one too that we look at and work. Property management, typically if residential sales is having a return, the traditional model, more of the 4, 5, 6, 8% return on revenue. Property management is going to get in your 20s, 20% typically. If you're running it, you've enough properties to cover that expense and bring it, and you've got capable people. We used to generate a good bit of revenue from that. And then resorts, if you're in a resort rental area, resort rentals was property management, I always say, on steroids, because that's taking all your fees instead of monthly, they go to weekly. And then it's a multiple that happens in that scenario. And that's in the residential real estate. Then you have commercial. You have the commercial brokerage. You decide whether you want to go into commercial and start bringing in some revenue in that source. And then you look at the ancillary services, mortgage, title, warranty. So these are other ways. And to your point, like going back to the facilities like the gyms and things like that, and how you're going to, that's so important to the total picture. And one of the things that we're able to do through this process of working with the broker owners is not only creating efficiency within their current operation, which allows them to look at other alternative revenue streams, which allows them to say, I need to start driving down this path a little bit. All right, I got to get this humming over here inefficient, because what happens sometimes they're so busy plugging the holes from the dam and the leaks over here from the business, the core business of the residential, they don't have the time and energy to deal with these other potential revenue streams, which frankly could help them even spend more time and energy on the residential if they create these additional revenue streams.
Yeah. So to kind of recap on that, just to make sure I didn't miss here. So you're saying, like a 4% or under margin off of the company dollar from the splits comp plan that they have with the agents, not counting ancillaries yet. Right. And so you should be above 5% to be good. 8% or above, it ends up being great. And because I hear so many that broker owners or even leaders that'll say, what's that?
I'll just be clear. It's on the total. So it's return on revenue. So it's the total revenue that comes in. You pay your sales professionals X percent of that. You then have company dollar. That company dollar has that's called a company dollar percentage or retained percentage. That company dollar goes to expenses, and whatever's at the bottom line, that's that 4%, 8% of the total revenue that came in from the sales.
Yeah. Love it. So then, and I think that's, because real estate's funky, right? When compared to other companies, when you start, people calculate profit margin so differently, right? Like my profit margin, I can tell somebody that's either 50%, right? Or I can tell you that it's 15%, right? Is it like GCI that's coming in, or is it company dollar that's coming in? So I'm glad that you brought that up. Because I'll hear a lot that will say, oh, well, from the money coming in from the agents, let's just say, that revenue coming in, where you're talking that, 4 to 8% or whatever, like, oh, that's just the break-even point, and they want to make the money on the ancillaries. But that freaks me out, man. I don't that model, because like, what if the other things go away? What if RESPA changes something, right? Where it's like makes the thing somewhat profitable, right? Mm-hmm. So then, what do you see some of the biggest, like I look at as technology that exists today and being able to provide these systems and create so many efficiencies, at least in my own business, I've seen like today, like for example, I can operate with 3 staff members versus 10 years ago that would have taken 8 or 9 to do the same amount of work.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Do you see that? I mean, is that where you see a lot of the waste going, is just inefficiencies with internal operations?
Sure. Well, that's typically your 2 biggest expenses are your space and your people. So that's something we take a deep look as well. And one of the things we compared is a lot of square footage, a lot of operations across the country and across North America are sizing much smaller offices. The offices of, so many square feet, 10,000 square feet offices or so yesterday. The offices of today are much more streamlined. They're much more the Starbucks concept. They're looking at 1,500 to 2,500 square feet, much more use space, community space, not private offices. Things along those lines, plenty of some conference rooms people can pop in for private conversations, things like that. But that seems to be the model. We look at, but those expenses, you want to make sure, depending on the model and what you're providing and your value proposition to attract the agents and to retain the agents that you have. What are those percentages to the total expenses? Something that you want to definitely keep a look at. Those are the 2 biggest ones, space your facilities, and then your staff. Staffing, we look at closed units per person, get a sense of are those full-time employees? We say FTE, full-time employees, full-time equivalent. Is that something? Are we doing enough transactions, closed units to pay for and to utilize those full-time staff the best? Are you underutilizing them, or do you have more bandwidth that you can actually increase units and not have to hire? And that's some information that's very helpful, because sometimes you might have current staff in place, and to your earlier point, they might be not the most efficient staff. And so if you see the current close rate going on with your company, with your team or your company, and in the analysis we see, right now you're closing 75 closed units per year per full-time employee. Well, you've got twice. You could do twice the units and keep the staff the way they are, and not have to change the head count. Now, you might need to change the staff, but you don't need to change the head count, because the staff equivalent, you don't have the right efficient staff. They're not doing what they should be doing. And you have to take also look, some staff do more than other staff. So you have to take a more complete overview. It's too difficult to just make a statement from 30,000 feet as a blanket statement for an organization. Frankly, that's why we do the discovery in our whole process. We have to get to know the organization and then be able to make prudent, knowledgeable recommendations, because we know the model, we know exactly the direction. But if I'm going to make a general statement on staffing and space, the trend has been continually to go lower per square footage per full-time agent, not full-time agent, per licensee. So now you're getting closer to 100 square feet you're getting mostly 75 square feet per person, maybe down to 50 square feet, depending on the model. Full-time equivalent on production closed units, you're looking at 150 is a good number to look at, 150 closed units per year per full-time employee. So you're looking, and that's, if you're lower than that, you're closing on average. If you have, what we do with full-time equivalent or full-time employees, if you have two part-time people, they're both 20 hours, you add them together, they become one full-time employee. If you've got 3.5 staff, you use 3.5. So that's how the math works. And then you look at your closed units and you get a sense of, all right, am I running a really efficient back office, front office, back office, and you can tell that and look at that from the production numbers and from the efficiency sum. And then you have to look at, do I have the right people? Do I have the right systems in place to make sure I can utilize this? But part of it comes, and as we know in life, it's awareness. If you're not aware of anything and you think everything's great, then you think everything's great. But part of this process is taking a step back and in improving ourselves, getting feedback, constructive help, constructive feedback is always beneficial. But also in your business, getting some constructive help and insight. Okay, maybe this isn't exactly ideal. Maybe I've done this now for 5-6 years. It works, but can it work better? Can it work more efficient? Or am I able to? And I'll give you an example on my end. When I was running a company, we acquired Zip Realty, Realogy did through NRT, and Zip was a model itself, online leads, interesting platform, a Zap platform, which was integration with CMA, the management working with the e-agents. They called e-agents, were taking the leads, running around, and everyone had track. The manager had to track and know what was going on. And they had a total of 3 full-time staff in each office around the country. The most productive, most profitable shop for them was in Baltimore. So when the acquisition took place, they folded into my company. And so I got firsthand and worked with them. They became one of my reports, one of my responsibilities. And that helped me, educated me to see our current operations within the Coldwell Banker residential brokerage franchise group we were staff heavy. They were much more efficient in how they were able to process transactions and support the agents than we were. And we were running pretty efficient as it was, as you look across the country for NRT. But when I saw that example of how I could actually take even a further step in that direction and create even more efficiency, and actually continue to provide the same and more level of support to sales professionals that I work with in the offices, and also continue to do the back office processing of checks, contracts, payments on time, everything happening. That just opened the eyes to creating even more efficiency. So that's something. To the question earlier, is you always got to keep your eye around, keep your head on a swivel. You mentioned some ideas earlier about like Jimmy John's, things like that. There's always a way. And one of the things that we always talk about as a culture within your organization of working with your staff is you want them to buy into your vision, your mission, and be a part of it, not just be like punching a time card, coming and leaving. So they have to be in tune to that. You have to share it with them. But also I would encourage you to motivate them and ask them on a repeated basis, three things. What is it? Do you see anything of how we can create more efficiency in this organization? Do you see anything in here as whether it's currently what you work on or anything else, how we can lower costs? All right, efficiency, lower cost. And is there anything that you see that going on in this operation or anything that you're aware of, how we can drive more revenue? And so you basically ask them to become part of and think of something bigger than that role that they're in. And it's amazing what happens, because you'll have some people take off and they will provide some great insight. And what happens is also they start wearing your colors. They start feeling better about the organization because it's something much bigger than just the role that they were responsible for.
Yeah, love it. And that's treating the business as a business, running as a business. And it's just one of these things where it's like, it sounds like it all starts with, man, you got to know the data. Yeah. Even if you don't know what to do with the data yet, that's where you go to Dean and be like, hey, dude, like, what do I do with this data? But you got to be tracking your numbers and knowing the data points. Like Jeff Bezos said, if you don't know your business data, you are going to fail. At some point, you might have some good years, but, at some point it's going to collapse. And, so that's kind of the starting point, right? Of just knowing all that data. Go ahead.
Josh, because it's personality. Sometimes, you have a dynamic personality. It comes across, you can see how you can be very successful in business because the idea of creating relationships, building a level of trust, having a level of competence, working with people to buy and sell houses, creating a team, having team members feel confident about you and supporting them. That charisma, that energy gets you so far. It's the numbers of being able to create, really understanding the business as you just shared, that allows you to take these next steps and go higher, create more efficiency, drive more revenue, things like that. Because you can only go so far on that charisma piece as you're growing businesses. Because when you get, say, for example, if you're running a team of 15, 20 people, 30 people, if you want to go to 50 or just blow it up, let's go to 500, go to 1,000. You can't still do the things that you're doing at that level. And if that's part of your plan, well, then you have to, if that's part of your goal, you then have to dive into the numbers to understand how you're going to be able to do that. And you have to make some changes, frankly. And part of the change is getting a better sense of the numbers. And that's an education process for that team leader, for that brokerage owner.
Yeah, you created a video the other day that I got an email on and watched it. And it was like just these little subtle changes. I never thought of this, right? But I'm like, dude, this it's all theory. But I'm like, I started doing what you told me to do in the video, and I'll tell about what the video was in a second. But I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure that when we implement this process, now we're collecting all the data and seeing what this will look like. I'm like, I think we can cut our dropout rate, right, from agents leaving in half of what it is. Right now we're at a 19% year over year on our team turnover rate. Yeah. But you said in there, I was like, hey, look, when during the exit interview process, if somebody's going to go give you their notice, right, when you know the numbers, because their argument might be splits, right, but breaking down that data, breaking down their growth, but breaking down every element of it, right, and just showing them the figures of, hey, a better split doesn't mean more profitability. And so, so with our progressive split plan, it's like, try to make it where, they can't go duplicate the same thing on their own, right? Where it's just they're an idiot if they leave. I don't say that to people, but that's been my ultimate goal with it. But it's like, look, so now we're backtracking this, but anybody that's ever left, we're tracking the year that they leave and what their production is, in addition to as they were with the team. Right. But having that data of just showing them in front of their face and visualizing the data of what the true costs are when they go on their own, versus here, and breaking that down. Until I watched your video with that, I was like, I never thought about it. Just that one little tweak, man, that can be a game changer for us.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. That was, it's a great exercise. And that's something, having that knowledge where you can sit down and have that business conversation. Really, realistically, everybody watching this, you and I, we want to have the best return for our time. We all want to do well. You can't blame someone for feeling like wanting to make more money or be more successful. Frankly, we want them to be more successful. We want them to make more money. The point is that you have to feel very confident about your team and about what you offer, that you're the best for them to do that, not somewhere else. And then you have to be able to communicate that. And that's where that's when the rubber hits the road there, is having somebody who can communicate it, who can really sit down and have that conversation. And there's multiple levels to this. Number one is you have to have that personal relationship or that connection with that person, that they even want to sit down with you, first off. Because if someone doesn't sit down and they just leave, then there's no connection. And you have to look at, what are your connections? What are you doing to connect with your people? Because you're not connected. If they're just walking out the door and a license is being transferred, there's no connection. There's a loss there. So if they are sitting down with you, then you have to have that knowledge, to have that conversation with them, to help them, show them that you're much better off here than there. They could pay you 115%. And it's not going to be the same than you are here, or whatever the numbers equate to and work out to. But having the ability to have that conversation, and they're being open to sitting down with you and trusting you in this process, it's a multifaceted, multi-layered way of making sure that your agents and your team or your brokerage feel those connections with you and your organization, that they're going to believe it, stay there, hear what you're saying, and it resonates, because it does. Frankly, at the bottom of the day, if you are able to explain it to them and lay it all out and show them the differences, people will believe it. And frankly, sometimes, most times, people actually, it might be a slight difference in the compensation one way or the other, maybe a little bit better, maybe a little worse. But if they feel like they have a connection to an organization, to the leader, they feel like they get a much better reward personally from being there, whatever it might be, they'll stay there instead of leaving. Money is not number one on most people's lists. It's typically number 4 or 5.
Yeah, love it. So then I think right now, probably more so than ever, and this is all theory, but this is just, I guess, my belief, but is more important than ever, for all the stuff that you just talked about, for broker owners, team leaders, and as well as agents, like to know your numbers, know your data, know the waste. I truly feel, and again, this is all theory, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's like real estate's the only industry out there that you go buy an 80-inch LED TV today, like you can get the best of the best for $2,000. 10 years ago, that thing was $15,000 or whatever, right? So with technology, like things are getting cheaper, better price points, and agents are already feeling the commission compression. As that comes on, that means then agents are going to look to cut, which means they're going to be going to brokerages that offer better splits. And we're all getting hit, and we're going to continue getting hit with that. So we gotta eliminate the waste with that. And with broker owners, they're in a tough spot, right? From like being an agent looking in, I'm like, man, look, like us as the agents, we want all this from our broker owners, but we don't want to pay them a damn thing, right? I know that's not fully true, but there is some truth to that, right? That we're looking at for that. So you're in that position where it's like, hey, you got to be competitive with those splits, but then give value. So you talked about the data that you need to make those decisions and eliminate the inefficiency and waste. But when it comes to giving value, and pouring into your agents, because man, to be competitive, and to set yourself apart, man, it's not enough just to hang license and cut commission checks. Like, what should broker owners and our team leaders be doing to really pour into their agents, but also do it in a way it's like we can't hire a bunch of full-time coaches to come in full-time for agents, right? But like, how do we shift to do this and provide more value than our competitors?
Well, some of it first starts from what we talked about earlier. Is many times people don't know what the competitors are doing. They have a sense, they have a feeling, but they really don't know. So that's one of the first steps, is to find out exactly where are you on this spectrum. So for example, if your model is high service, high tools, high this, and I'm going to ask for a higher commission to the company because I'm providing all these tools and coaching and support, I'm over here compared to the 100%, you get everything. I'm not going to give you a lot of services, support on this side. Where are you falling in that spectrum as a team or as a brokerage? And then how do you increase your bandwidth in that area? And the bandwidth expansion, it ties into multiple things. One is the dynamic leader. That is something that if I go into different places around North America, and you'll find one brand does extremely well in one market, but that same brand, same model, everything in another market is doing terrible. What's the difference? It's typically that dynamic leader. So that goes back to our first part of this whole conversation, is always pushing yourself to be the best you can be and understand who you are, and make yourself and continue to make yourself in, because that's that magnetism. So the dynamic leader is by far a big thing. And the next thing, as I mentioned, is knowing your market, knowing the players in the market. What are their offerings? And then you look at it like you do on pricing. It's like a CMA. You think about a comparative market analysis. You're taking it home, putting it on the market. What do? We evaluate the marketplace. What are homes selling for like this home? Where do we price it competitively to get it sold? And that's the thing we need to do in this process. It's so then the broker or the large team leader has to look, all right, what are my offerings? And I can also share with you, there's quite a bit. If you're offering leads, you're offering business, you're giving back office support, you're able to retain a high percentage of that dollar. There are brokerages and large teams that are able to retain a high percentage of that dollar because they're providing a lot of support, and they're providing a lot of business opportunity to team members. And if it's within a brokerage, that becomes their E-team, as we say it, or however you want to call it, where these agents are provided business. And because of that, their commission split is adjusted. They don't get as much as they would if they had generated themselves. They get less. So it's a very deep question, in that you can go multiple layers on it. But as to team leaders and brokerages out there, you first have to know the marketplace. You have to have also and get a sense of where you want to position yourself compared to the market, and then what are your offerings. And you always want to exceed expectations. So if you're going to pick this place on that spectrum, as I shared with you earlier, and this is your area, you want to exceed the expectations. And the really critical piece, and we talked about this just a few minutes ago, is how are you communicating your value? We talk about steak and sizzle. So the idea, you might have a great steak, it's got a lot of things going for it. You've got a lot of value in your value proposition. There's just a lot of support, a lot of whatever you have or whatever you're providing, but you don't have any sizzle. I mean, you're not communicating. It's basically a secret. And you want to make sure you're able to communicate your message on an ongoing basis and a repetitive basis. And you have to make sure that you're using it in the most compelling way. You have to have a clear, concise value proposition that you express in a compelling way. I talk about an elevator speech, and a great way to do this, anybody watching this, is to video yourself and do your elevator speech. All right. If I'm licensed and I'm in your market, I am licensed. If I come to your market and you're a team leader or you're a brokerage, and I'm interviewing teams and brokerages in that marketplace, all right, I just ran into you in the elevator. Why would I work with you? I'm interested. I'm open. I'm a productive agent. I've been very successful. Share with me. And if you can't rattle off and you don't have some distinct value differences, then you have to really go back and start this process of getting truly clear on who you are, what you offer, how does that fall in that marketplace, and then be able to clearly and concisely express that value.
Yeah. No, I love it. And interesting things that, even through this interview, we're getting ready to start this year journey together. So, I can't, fathom what I'm going to learn through this next year, but it's like, man, I've got a list of notes of things I'm already falling short on. Yeah. Right. Cause it's like, all right, like I might know that elevator pitch, or like if I were there to recruit, I might be the dynamic leader, but you get to a size where they're not getting me anymore. I don't know if the rest of my staff or people inside my organization pretty much guarantee that they're not going to have that elevator pitch. Like we're not all in one synced unit, right, with that. And that's probably very problematic.
Well, one thing about that, Joshua, is as you expand, most of everyone that we work with wants to grow. It's growth-minded. It's all growth-minded, whether it's team leaders or brokerages. So we talk about systems. So as I went from a managing office, 20-some agents, went over 100 agents, then ran a region, ran a company, 2,000, 4,000 agents. As it expands, you have to think about, how do I continue to be able to touch the sales professionals, my business partners, where I'm getting it. And so you create systems in place and you do things that help. You can't be there every single day, every minute, but you can create systems and ways that you can actually make sure that their voice is heard. You have a way for everyone to communicate to you. And that's something where you eliminate or you minimize. You don't eliminate, but you minimize potential challenges with retention.
Yeah. Well, and I'm guessing from, when you first jumped in this business, you said, there was internet, but it wasn't obviously what it is now today. It wasn't used the same way, right? Again, this is 2005. And even then, there's no smartphones, there's no YouTube, there was no podcast, there's no Facebook, and now today, when you look at, virtual meetings like this, we can get 50 agents in Zoom rooms, do breakout meetings, do voicemail dumps, free Facebook groups. There's so many ways to get that message out into groups and create that, today it's easier than ever. I know a lot of people are afraid of technology, but it's man, we're so blessed to have all this available.
Oh my gosh. We are so blessed. And we have, think of this, if you go back 100 years and just think how now we have so much knowledge at our fingertips. You literally can find out anything and everything about anything and everything. You pretty much, as you spend the time and energy, you look for it, you'll find it. We used to have to go, who knows where. You had to travel somewhere, you had to find books, you had to read, you had to take the time. Now it's just so much at your fingertips, and it's really, you need to take advantage of that and really grow and push yourself to do the things, and I'm not trying to act like every minute of the day I'm reading things, I love going to the movies. I love doing other things. But you set goals for yourself. Like the beginning, everyone set goals as you go into the year. I want to do certain things. I want to read a book a month. It's not a book a week. I did that last year. It didn't work. I had to recalibrate. Book a month. I've got a person, a good friend of mine. We're going to start being book partners. We're going to evaluate books. He gave me a book. I'm going to read it in February. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to give him a book in March. So you end up getting people that help you stay on the path and help you actually grow. So look at that as you're looking around at people in your life and how they can impact you. How can they help you keep on the straight and narrow?
Yeah, love it. So just I know we're going long on time, so a couple quick last questions. But when you just mentioned the book thing,
yeah,
right? I've done that too. You hear the average CEO reads 60 books a year, and so would you rather read, if you're doing a book a month, would you rather read 12 new books in a year? Or would you rather take the time to find the book and read it 12 times in that year and really master that one book?
Well, I can't. It's going to be a cop-out because I'm going to say both. It depends on the book. I guess that's a better answer. Because some books, I'll read them and it's really impactful to me. So I read them multiple times. I'll highlight them. I'll take notes. I'll go through each one and take notes from each chapter. From the highlights and things like that. And I'm doing it only to burn it into my mind at a higher level. I'm doing it over and over in repetition, highlighting, underlining. All those things are very helpful. The note-taking is just moving it to another higher level of awareness for me as I move on. So some books I continue to pull back out and read. And as you know, and you mentioned this earlier, Joshua, we change. So as we grow, our filter, our vision changes because we're different people. So as you see a movie or read a book the second time or see a movie for a second time, you see different things because, frankly, you're a different person. Something's going to resonate differently for you. So you mentioned a business book earlier, Good to Great. I loved Good to Great. I read Good to Great. It gave me and I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Diving into these publicly traded companies between this year, they look at, two companies in the same business. One takes off. It's great for over 15 years. Was it 15 years, over 10 years or 15 years? The other one did not do so well. What was the unique difference? What separated them? What kept them great for such a period of time? I think it was 13 total companies within that time. And that was fascinating for me. And I enjoyed that. So the hedgehog concept, all these different things that came from it. So I love, there's other tools like Blinkist where you get a little tiny synopsis of a book. It's like a Cliff Notes, today's Cliff Notes. So there's all kinds of different tools where you can get little insight into books without having to spend all the time and energy to read every single word in every single book. I'm an audiobook fan. Back when I was running the Mid-Atlantic, I would put about 45,000 miles in my car every year, driving around to offices and seeing everybody. And so in that time, I listened to books all the time. Like doing a book a week was easy at that time.
Yeah.
But it depends on what's going on in your life, what you can put up. But I encourage you to, pick different. Sometimes it's good to get away from business and do some things else. So that just in life, like life coaching stuff, things that are beneficial to being a better person, living a better life, things like that. Something that's outside, doesn't have to be all business all the time. You want to be more dynamic. Frankly, as you grow through retention, and we're talking about it as a leader, being more dynamic, having more interest than just business is a really nice thing. So you're not just one-sided.
Yeah, love it. So then real quick, because I want to make sure that we get this out there, with T360 and the coaching and consulting that you guys have, and I know you have lots of different variations of that. And I'm a big believer in coaches, but also, I've chosen you guys to be my coach for the next 12 months and hopefully ongoing after that. And I think everybody that is listening to this podcast right now understands and sees why, and anybody that is a team leader, broker, and that's wanting to level up and go to that next level, I'd highly, highly recommend that they look into you guys, have a conversation, and you guys have something I've yet to ever see in this space, which is so needed. So where's the best place for those that are watching or listening to go learn more about you guys and start that conversation?
Sure. Thank you, Joshua. It's T360. So it's the letter T, the number 3, the word 60. T360.com is the company. That website will give you an overview of our operation. We have all the different divisions. Under the leadership tab, you'll see a fellows, T3 fellows. The leadership program that you're in, and I'm going to be working with brokers across North America and large team leaders, is our fellows program. You can go to t3fellows.com, the letter T, the number 3, fellows with an S, plural, fellows.com, and that'll take you right there. And it gives you, we have a bunch of videos on there. We have testimonials from company and brokers and large team leaders have gone through prior, give you some insight into it, what they got out of it, things along those lines. There's an overview of the process. There's 10 modules in the fellows program. It's probably the best program for a lot of people to go into because it's just streamlined. The one you're going into, Joshua, it's actually streamlined over a 12-month period of time. And we take one key area in running your business each month. We work on, we share the information in a module format, a webinar format. We have assignments associated with each one of those key areas. I help one-on-one coach with that broker owner or large team leader on that key area, and then we move into the next key area. So and we have 2 retreats that we do in the course of that program. So we all get together, and you have peers in this group, other participants, where you get that support as well. You get insight from other broker owners and large team leaders about what they're doing, where they are, learn from them. They learn from you. We also bring in advisors, T3 advisors, we call them. And these are top leaders in the industry running companies that are doing something extremely well in certain areas. And we have them share what their experiences in those key areas. And they become also advisors to our participants so they can connect, reach out, and help each other as well. So it's a really dynamic group in a dynamic process and a program. We bring a lot more, like you showed the trends report. We do a sneak peek at the trends report before it comes out for our clients that are in the program. We give them insight. They get the trends report as well. They get our Mega 1000. They get our different papers and white papers and things that we do during the course of the year as part of this. And we give them also insight into things. And then another key piece, Joshua, on this is that we become, in what we say, part of the executive leadership team for that team leader or for that brokerage during the 12-month period of time. So we're there to help support them because, as we know in our business, we go to work, we think we got the day figured out, and then something comes out of the blue, and then boom, it all you go in another direction and something changes. So we're available to help support during that 12-month, during the course of our agreement in working with you. We're part of your executive leadership team. We're here to help support you. So when that curveball comes or that question comes about something new's on your radar, you're maybe a competitor coming to the marketplace, wants some additional insight, things like that, we're available to help and support.
Yeah, I found that to be so important. It's easy to consult somebody in their business because you're not emotionally attached. You're not, in our own businesses, man, we don't see the obvious. We need the person in the skybox, and especially the person in the skybox that's been there. Yeah, right. Like in my business, to be honest with you, my real estate business, like, I mean, I know how to be a great realtor, right? But running, doing what we're doing, we're a model, and we're trying to always do things. Like I just, a lot of it's my best guess. I don't really know the best way, and having that person in skybox becomes huge. So love it.
That's an honest assessment too, because most people, and this is the analogy I kind of draw, Joshua, is like many of the people that we work with, the sense is that they're in a dark room and they're figuring out, they're smart people. And they've moved into this room and they're trying to figure out where's the light switch? Where's that next door for me to continue to move down this road that I want to run down? But they're not running. They're just trying to find the light switch. So if you can find someone who can turn those lights on for you so you can see where you're going, and you'll move there much faster with less expense, less challenge, and you move in a faster pace. And it's just less stress. So the whole thing that's kind of the analogy I like to throw out, because I think it's true and it resonates in the fact of, instead of, because this is new, many people like yourself running a team. Like I remember my kids came to me, talk about children, and I'm like, hey, this is the first time in my life I've ever been 52 years old, never had this challenge. So, give me a break. I'm trying to do the best I can, right? And so there are some others that have been here before that have been through this path, have dealt with these issues, and seek out that insight and support. And frankly, it can help you in the process.
Yeah, no, I love it. And one thing I love about mastermind groups and I mean, everything that you just talked about, right. But also it's like entrepreneurship, man. A lot of things that people don't think about when they jump into the space is the loneliness that you end up dealing with. Yeah. Especially as a CEO or leader of a company, you have really nobody you can go with and talk to. You can't talk to your employees. You can't usually, like, your spouse usually doesn't understand. Your friends don't understand. It's like you're kind of on this journey alone. And it's so powerful to be with other like-minded people, because it's like, I mean, it's smiles and cries, man, ups and downs, dude. And
that is so true.
Not careful, man. It's easy to burn out or just like screw it, throw in the towel and just have enough. If you don't have, that kind of inner circle.
True. So true. I could have said it better myself. Excellent.
Yeah, love it. So are you guys, we're going to put those links to wherever you're at, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, wherever you're at, we're going to have links to all the information below that Dean just mentioned. And I know we end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is truly the start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information and taking action on it that allows you to create the power in your life to go out there and create the life you know you want and deserve. And Dean shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you guys today. Don't just show up here and listen, man. Go out there and take action on this advice so you can go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And thank you so much, as always, for being here, for listening and all your support. And Dean, man, this has been an honor. Truly appreciate you taking time every day to be here.
Joshua, good seeing you, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, 100%, my friend. All right, you guys, we will see you next time.